There are strong denials coming from the government of Israel now over a report in the Wall Street Journal accusing Israel of spying on those nuclear negotiations the U.S., other members of the UN Security Council in Germany have been having with Iran, and disclosing some of the secrets, the Wall Street Journal says, to key members of Congress in an effort to try to derail any emerging agreement. The Wall Street Journal says Israel collected information on those talks by eavesdropping, using surveillance of Iranian leaders, talking to European officials as well. Israel denies allegations it was spying on the United States. A quote from the Israeli government: "These allegations are utterly false. The State of Israel does not conduct espionage against the United States or Israel's other allies." The false allegations, the Israeli statement continues, are clearly intended to undermine the strong ties between the United States and Israel and the security and intelligence relationship we share. Israel clearly is against the apparently emerging nuclear deal with Iran. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made Israel's case against the deal during his controversial address before a joint meeting of the U.S. Congress earlier in the month. Let's talk about all of this and a whole lot more with two special guests. Joining us right now from Capitol Hill, the chairman and the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican Congressman Devin Nunes. He's from California. He's the chairman, and the ranking Democrat, Adam Schiff. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us, and I know this is a rare joint interview with the two of you. You're cooperating on cyber warfare. We're going to get to that in a few moments. But, Mr. Chairman, what do you make of this Wall Street Journal report? And specifically, did Israeli officials brief you on sensitive, classified, shall we say, information about what was going on, information that you weren't receiving from the Obama administration?
Well, I saw the report last night, and I was actually shocked by it. I had not been briefed. The committee has not been briefed. And even this morning, the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, said that he had not been briefed. So if they were sharing information, it wasn't on our side of the aisle that I'm aware of.
You're talking about the Israelis had not briefed you on any of these information they supposedly were collecting through their intelligence. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Chairman?
That's correct. Yeah, we have not been briefed by the Israelis on anything that's in the Wall Street Journal article at all. And
Congressman Schiff, what about you?
Well, without commenting on the allegations, I can say certainly I've had a number of meetings with Israeli officials over the months that these negotiations have been going on, and in none of those cases have the Israelis discussed with me anything that I would consider classified or even all that sensitive. So certainly not in my presence, and beyond that I really couldn't say.
Are you satisfied, Mr. Chairman, with the things you've been receiving from the Obama administration on the way these negotiations have been going?
Well, I think they have done a good job of briefing members of Congress, at least on the Intelligence Committee. We've been kept informed. Now, look, I don't agree with the administration's take on this and where the negotiations are. I do agree that the negotiations are being conducted in good faith, but I just don't think at the end of the day the Iranians are going to really make a deal that the American people want to be part of.
Congressman Schiff, I believe you, and I assume the chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, were among the 367 members of the House bipartisan letter, Democrats and Republicans, that you sent to President Obama underlying concerns about what's going on. Congressman Schiff, what's your biggest concern?
Well, probably the factor I'm going to look at most closely is what's the duration of the agreement, what is the number of centrifuges and the generation of centrifuges that's allowed. 10 years seems to me a very short window, so I'm hoping that there's something beyond that. But that really is a key concern of mine. 10 years goes by in the blink of an eye. So the staying power of any kind of a negotiated deal is going to be very important. But I'm going to keep my powder dry, and I think all members would be wise to see what comes out of this. If there is an agreement, there'll be plenty of time for us to weigh in thereafter.
Did you sign that letter, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I did.
And your biggest concern is?
Well, look, I just don't believe when you start negotiating, the point of this all has been, if the Iranians want to have nuclear power like they say that they want to have, look, there's plenty of countries and plenty of agreements that could be made to make sure that they could have atomic energy. But the fact of the matter is, one centrifuge is too many from my perspective. And so I just don't see the Iranians making a deal with us that's going to actually limit their ability to get a nuclear weapon. And in fact, look, as good as our intelligence community is, a lot of times we don't even know what the Iranians are up to. And so, we were shocked, like many were, at the disclosures that have come forward about the size and scope of the Iranians' nuclear program, even in the most recent years. So I'm very concerned.
I want to move on and talk about cybersecurity, but very quickly, Congressman Schiff, that year-long secret negotiations that the U.S. was having with Iranian officials, I believe, in Oman to try to set the stage for these full-scale negotiations, was your committee briefed on those discussions that were going on?
Well, we were briefed, although I don't know that I can say we were briefed contemporaneous with some of those early negotiations. And that certainly was an issue that came up in the committee in terms of when we were brought up to speed and what the circumstances there were. But I feel also, as the chairman mentioned, that we have been kept up to speed with frequent briefings both in the committee as well as at the White House on how the negotiations are proceeding. So I don't feel like I've been left in the dark at all.
Let's talk about cybersecurity, and it's a rare moment that we're seeing a Republican and a Democrat. You guys are working together right now. Mr. Chairman, tell us the gist of what you have in mind to try to fight this enormous threat that the U.S. and so many other countries clearly are facing right now.
Well, the committee's actually been working on this for 5 years. Under under the previous leadership, we worked on this. Both Adam and I were on the committee. We had a good legislation last year. The legislation, I think, this year is even better. It's good. We've worked with our Senate colleagues also, both Republicans and Democrats. We're almost on the same page in terms of allowing American companies and the American people to share openly with the United States government threats that they're seeing. Because of this, we need this because of the threats that are getting bigger and bigger as every day goes by. Specifically, just in recent months, we've had 2 American healthcare companies that have been compromised.
And is there a privacy concern, Congressman Schiff? Some privacy advocates, they're always nervous when you start talking about this kind of stuff. What's your answer?
Well, there are excuse me, legitimate privacy concerns, but I think we have addressed most of those. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice here a bit.
Hold on a second, Congressman.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Clear your throat, and then you'll feel a little better once you clear your throat.
Okay.
I'll ask a question to Congressman Nunes, and then you can respond as well. Mr. Chairman, the House Homeland Security is also pushing forward similar cybersecurity bills. Which is it? Is it your committee, Chairman Mike McCall's Homeland Security Committee? What's the difference between these respective pieces of legislation?
Well, I see them as a parallel track. Clearly, what our concern is to make sure that the intelligence community, the interface that we have with the American public, that we are able to keep sources and methods confidential, and that we make sure that the Department of Defense and the NSA are not getting private information. That's been one of the key hang-ups from last year's bill. That's a concern of ours. When we start to talk about what does the portal look like with the American people, like where are they going to put their information into the government, where are they going to share it at, that actually comes under the jurisdiction, or could come under the jurisdiction of the Homeland Security Committee. So I see these as parallel tracks. We're working closely with Chairman McCall. Just as I said, we're also working closely with the Senate Intelligence Committee, because at the end of the day, we want to get an agreement and get this to the President's desk to be signed so that we can protect the cyber networks for the American people.
All right. Congressman Schiff, if your voice is still holding up, I'll give you the final word. Go ahead.
Great. Thanks. Well, Wolf, I think we made a lot of progress since last year in addressing the concerns that the privacy community raised. Our bill ensures that the information first has to go through a civilian portal like the Department of Homeland Security, that all personal information has to be stripped out before it's shared with the government, that there can only be limited use of this information. It can't be used for broad law enforcement purposes. And finally, that there aren't countermeasures permitted to private companies. Those were 4 key privacy concerns with the bill last year, which I didn't support. I think we've addressed all 4 of these. So I'm very optimistic about the prospects for passage.
All right, Adam Schiff, Devin Nunes, good to see some bipartisan cooperation from the House Select Committee on Intelligence. We'll stay in close touch with both of you. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thanks.